How many bricks does it take to complete a building made out of brick? Welcome to another episode of The GameSmith. In today's episode, we're going to be making a stone tower out of crafting styrofoam bricks. If you're wondering what the answer to the riddle is, stay tuned because I'll be telling you later in the video. In this video, I want to share these Creatology Project Bricks with you that I've been using for the last few years. You can see here that the product designers made a castle out of these pre-cut bricks. Each box contains 285 pieces, which sounds like a lot, but depending on the scope of the project you are building, you may need more than one box. The box also shows a few shaping techniques to help you with your building projects. You can cut them, pinch them, and even roll them without seriously compromising the usefulness of the block. The box also suggests how to make corners and which glue to use with the project. This is a versatile product that is not only great for school projects, but for building 28mm terrain as well. Now, rather than using the blocks to build a freeform structure, I'm going to use a plastic food container as the base structure. We can just turn these containers upside down and use them as a solid framework to affix our blocks to. The size and shape of the container is up to you, but since I'm building a tower, I'm going to use a tall, round container. The container is about 8 inches or 21 centimeters tall. If we take a closer look at the bricks, you can see that the styrofoam is pre-painted with a non-toxic and child-safe paint. The tan color is great for desert structures, and the porous structures of the styrofoam makes the blocks look like pumice or volcanic rock. We can also paint the foam bricks with acrylic or acrylic enamel paints. Most of the bricks are the same dimensions, about 1.5 centimeters by 3 centimeters, but there are a few outliers in the box. I grabbed a few items to add texture to the bricks so they can alter the surface of each of them. I don't want the tower to look like that all the bricks were uniform or industrially produced. I could add some texture to all the bricks before I start, but since I don't know how many I'm going to use, I'll add the texture as I go. To attach the bricks to the container, we'll use a hot glue gun. We need only add the glue to the brick and press it against the container. Despite the heat from the glue gun, the styrofoam brick doesn't melt when the hot glue is added, so we have a little bit of working time with the bricks. For our first layer, we need only work our way around the tower brick by brick, making sure that the bottom is flush with our work surface. Now that we've gone around most of the circumference of our container, we need to think about a space for the door of our tower. I have a WizKids Deep Cuts door here that I've already painted that would work great if we left a space for it, or we could even fill in the space and just place the door on the outside of the tower. I also have this door from an old Bendy Dungeon wall set from Dungeon Life that I could use for a door on the tower. I think I'll fill in the space around the door and leave that doorway empty. If you don't have any pre-made doors, you can always make your own door out of craft sticks. Now I can add the bricks to surround the doorway. I actually found a thinner brick that will fill in this narrow gap in the wall, and I didn't even have to cut it. For the second row, I'm going to texture the bricks as I add each brick to the tower. I don't want to stack the bricks directly on top of each other, but rather over the seams or joints between them. I think by now you get the idea of how the bricks are stacked, and we can speed ahead. Now that we are on the final row of the tower, I'll give you a word of caution about the vertical spacing of the bricks. Depending on how tall your tower is, you have to be aware of how tall the final row will be over the top of your container. If you want the top of the container to be flat or have crenellations or a battlement, you have to make sure that you correctly space the bricks as you work up the side of your tower. Since I'm creating a simple parapet on the top of the tower, I don't need to worry about shortening every other brick to create a toothy battlement appearance. We could leave our tower the sandy color of the styrofoam bricks, and the project would be fine just as it is. For our more advanced crafters, we could add a few washes, like this Seraphim Sepia from Citadel. We use the wash in the raised areas so the liquid will drain down into the lower areas of the tower. The porous nature of the styrofoam will soak up the wash, so it doesn't spread like it normally does. We want to create a patchwork with the wash and avoid creating large blocks of color. After our first wash is dried, we can add a second, much darker wash. For the second wash, I'm using Citadel's Agrax Earthshade. If you make your own washes or choose to use other colors, I strongly encourage you to do so. I'm using very little of the darker wash on this step. I'm only adding dark highlights to the lighter wash beneath. If you're looking at this patchwork of brown washes and think it looks horrible, then you have the correct impression. Our stone tower will look much better after the next step. Next, I'm using this Army Painter Skeleton Bone Primer, which is a very close match to the tan of our crafting bricks. Make sure to follow the instructions on the label and check our foundations video on using spray primers and paint. We'll add a thin layer of tan primer to our build in order to blend all of the washes and the styrofoam colors together under the primer. The high contrast browns of our washes are now muted and all the bricks look like different colored stones. After the aroma wears off, we can take our tower inside and complete our build. Next, we're going to use a sheet of single-ply cardboard and our rulered cutting mat to create a sheet of 1-inch grid squares. We can use a grid to cover the roof so that we can easily use 28mm miniatures on top of our stone tower. I have a number of different container lids that I use as templates for tracing circles on maps. I can usually find a lid with the right diameter to trace out a circle on our new cardboard grid to fit on our stone tower. With the right size template, I need only trace the circle on the grid and then with some scissors cut out the circle. Be sure to cut on the inside of the black line of the marker since the template barely fit in the top of our tower. If we cut along the outside edge of the marker line, the circle will be slightly too big. Now we can simply place our rounded grid on the top of our build, and we have completed our stone tower. One last note that while we're cutting and drawing grids, I suggest that you cut a number of different sized circles that can be used as portable maps inside the stone tower. Starting at the bottom, we can create several floors that gradually shrink in diameter in order to show that the tower narrows the higher up the structure it goes. We can fill these grids with indoor scatter terrain such as furniture or lab equipment to map the interior of our tower, but that's another video. If you're curious, the answer to the riddle is 1. The last brick is all you need to complete a building made of brick. I really like using these pre-painted styrofoam bricks for making structures, especially for desert terrain. I constantly need a guard tower, an alchemist's hidden sanctuary, or a solitary wizard's tower, and with this simple build, I can show my PCs both the exterior and the interior of the building. Whether or not I decorate the stone with washes or add a matte varnish doesn't really change the utility of the building. I could still go one step further and add moss and creeping vines. We could also easily carve some windows into the sides and add a light source under the tower to light up the interior. If you'd like to support us here at The GameSmith, there are a number of ways you can do that. If you haven't already subscribed, now is a great time. Hit the thumbs up button and give us a like. Ask a question or leave a comment below. Join us on social media like Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. Check out our website at thegamesmith.org. Read our free monthly blog and listen to our podcast. Finally, you can join Patreon, which gives you access to content like our podcasts and exclusive videos. Your support in any form is much appreciated. Until next time, I'll see you at the table.